Whatever you like, just do what you've got to do.
Right.
Welcome to Big Questions, Short Answers. I'm Sian.
Hello, I'm Andy, Sian's husband, asking the big life questions.
And possibly adding a little bit of unsolicited advice.
This podcast is brought to you by Sian's value-based online course. Visit sianjacquet.com to find out more. Today, quite interesting, because I wanted to talk about what was on the telly, and it's about relationships, Married at First Sight.
Off.
No, but the only thing about that was about developing a relationship. Why are you looking at me like that?
Just the very name of the television program makes my toes curl.
But one of the things they do, they ask each other questions and it's all compressed into an afternoon or something like that. But that's something that we did, didn't we?
You were comparing our relationship to Married at First Sight.
Not Married
It sounds very much to me like you are.
No. But in terms of a process, in terms of getting a relationship right, what they're talking about is that they ask each other some quite challenging questions.
Yeah.
And just, you've got your hands in your face. It's not good. But just talking about getting to understand your partner, I think that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
When I've got myself sorted.
Yeah, we got there eventually. Please don't ever use Married at First Sight as any analogy in my life in any way, shape or form, because that took a sharp right turn. Okay, what I think I'm hearing you say, what you're asking me is to share what happened to us.
In terms of building a relationship, yeah.
So you asked me to marry you 35, 6, 7 years ago. I don't know, somewhere, somehow. I don't know, it's a long time ago. And we won't go into the details of that because that in itself was a 3-ring opera performance.
Yeah.
But what I remember saying to you is, yes, Andy, I will marry you. Yes, I love you. But before we make this commitment, we need to have some very real conversations about some fundamentals of our future.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 30 odd years ago, I mean, I was in my
20s.
late 20s, yeah? Middle 20s, late 20s. How old was I? I don't know. Oh, not
Middle 20s.
middle 20s. I didn't,
You're quite smart.
well, it was instinct rather than intellect, to be very clear here, right? And it was learning of what I had seen and observed of life, even then. And we spent the better part of, I think it was nearly a month, but it was certainly 3 weeks. We agreed that both of us, although I ended up doing the lion's share of it, and that's not a criticism, by the way, because I was driven by it, that I would put together a set of questions, and every evening you'd come home from work, I'd come, whatever, we'd have dinner. And we sat and we talked about these questions because I believed, and you engaged with it, that we needed to have a discussion about things that were possibly going to happen in our lives, right?
It used to make me feel very tired.
Yes, I know you did. And even need to sit down and talk, and it was like giving you a sedative.
I wanted to engage, but it was
hard work,
Yeah.
because it was part of your brain muscles that you'd never used.
Yeah.
And what we were actually doing was putting this relationship on a train track of emotional intelligence. That we were going to use our emotions and we were going to use our values and beliefs in a way that supported who we were. So we walked into it with a realistic view of who I was going to spend my life with. Because loving you was the easy bit, and
I know.
liking you when I didn't agree with you or when you didn't agree with me. And that's the very basic. You have to find a way of making that work. So, for instance, one of the questions, I can remember having a whole evening about this, was, well, okay, we get on, our parents get older, and, is there a set of circumstances where we become responsible for our parents and they come and live with us? Yes. Is that because in your cultural background, to a point, that was expected?
No. And at that stage, we were living in the same country.
Yeah. And we had a very robust conversation about the chances of me actually living in a house with your mum and dad. Very damn remote. Right?
People had bought tickets to that.
And that we needed a conversation about what could we do, what would we do. Now, it didn't necessarily mean we were signing some kind of contract and I've made that decision, but it was about talking about how we felt, about where our responsibilities began and ended. And more to the point, I can remember in that conversation taking it even to the when we didn't have children then, but kind of saying, well, look, if we have children, what is our expectation of them? Because
I'm moving in.
We told them that. No, because behind your back, I say to all of them, if I go first, don't ever let your father inveigle you into going to live in his house.
No, don't say that.
No, I do say that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think one of them might have me.
I think they'd all have you for entertainment value for 2 days a week, but just not 7. Am I going all over the place here?
No, but what we're talking about, what I suppose what I ask you about is, I suppose in terms of a relationship, because relationships go through freaking rocky times. It doesn't matter what relationship, and for however long they last, and ours has been fortunate to last quite a long time. I suppose I valued that, even though I kept falling asleep because they were difficult. But I valued that because that has sustained the relationship.
It's a reflection of that phrase we've always used, right? That you get to decide where the bar is.
Or the bar.
The bar of a relationship. The bar.
Yeah, our friends know about the bar. How high is the bar?
Well, the bar is as high as you choose your relationship to be. And that's based on values, and that's based on the vision of who and what you choose to be. And I believe, to a greater extent, that you and I decided that the bar was quite high. The values and the beliefs. Well, I couldn't help, because it takes 2 people to hold the bar each end, you see. It's not about me just standing in the middle holding it.
Yeah.
And that, again, is a metaphor for relationships.
Yeah.
The people who want a good relationship or want something, and they stand in the middle and they're holding the bar, and then they
on their own.
Buckle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm holding one end, you're holding the other.
Yeah.
And there are times when yours slips down, and there are times when I've slightly lowered mine to make it easy for both of us, because we both need a bit of a rest.
Yeah.
But then it's lifted. But what is the bar lowered for? In our relationship, the bar was never, ever lowered for things like loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Fidelity is very, very...
That was non-negotiable.
Yeah, that's
right?
a black line.
And don't do sharing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not a black line. Do not use the word black in those terms.
What?
It's a hard line.
A hard line.
Thank you. Right?
God. Yeah.
Well, it could have been a white line. Could have been a red line.
Well, but there's a black line.
Could have been a green line.
Piece of paper.
Stop it. Just accept that you have to learn to change how you say certain things.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Not everything, just to certain things. And don't be an old git that holds on to it just because you can.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. A hard line.
Coming back to the bar, right?
Yeah.
That is how we have survived this marriage. Yeah? And when the bar slightly dips, it's because one or other of us acknowledges that the other isn't necessarily at their best. Yeah? That they're not confident, that physically, emotionally, life, pressure, whatever it is, we now do it instinctively. But in the beginning, we had to learn how to do that. Yeah. Do you remember the times when we were going through really tough times? Little children, whatever. Money, everything, right? And there were probably more than 2. Several probably isn't too overstating it. When there were moments and days when I would actually say to you, stop. We have to prioritise each other now. We've got to stop and we have got to talk. And it doesn't matter what commitments we've got, because the wheels are going to fall off what is important in our life if we don't do this. And I literally remember you picking up the phone to your boss, big boss. We're still friends with him today. And he remembers it because I've chatted to him about it not that long ago. When you picked up the phone, he said, look, Sean and I are in a bad space. I need now some time.
Yeah.
To just, we've got some serious stuff to...
And you do have to prioritise that, because that's an moment.
Yeah, I was ready to go and speak to a lawyer. I was ready to say, I ain't doing this anymore. And we were both incredibly unhappy and hurting. And so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that we had the confidence to say nothing is more important than this relationship. And there is, at this moment, a crisis, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting everybody phone their boss and say, I'm not coming into work because I'm rowing with my partner. But there is a space where it is okay. Or, well, it's got to be okay, hasn't it? To put your hand up and find your voice to say, I'm in trouble and I need to focus on this problem now. Yeah.
As a relationship, I mean, you know, the most significant thing that you do as when you're alive, from my perspective, I mean, some people, you know, maybe live independent lives or the rest of it, but, you know, it's an important part of my life, your life. And if you're not prioritizing it, I mean, even to the point, as part of the early conversations, you know, as lovely as it is to have kids, we prioritize our relationship. Because if we're not together, then
well, again, I mean, you were there. You were there. How many times in social environments, whatever, people talk about kids, you know, like you do. And I would say, well, first of all, we referred to them as the squatters. That we'd signed up to look after them until we were 18. Well, how bad we're wrong with that. However, my point being that we would literally say that as far as the order of priority, you and I come first and the children come second. And I still actually believe that. Because if we are the providers of that emotional, financial and every other kind of stability, and to be the parents we chose to be in the world that we lived in, because that again is all relative, we needed that. Yeah.
I mean, we'll wind up a little bit now, but it's about prioritizing, isn't it? And it's about focusing on, as you said, setting the bar at a certain height, and prioritizing, and, you know, asking the hard questions, because they're going to come across you, aren't they? At some stage, maybe not, but at least you get an understanding of who you're dealing with.
Oh, let's just deal with one thing you've just said now.
But
nobody gets through life without facing serious challenges. And again, they're all relative to how robust and how prepared you are to deal with life events. But yeah, and if you choose to do it in a partnership, okay, let's wrap it up with a truth that I hope, you know, this is the umbrella. And maybe we need to print it like this. A third of it is love. A third of it is shared values. And a third of it is shared vision. And if you consistently work on that in your relationship, because love, do not rely on it. Yeah? I love them. As you know, I collect them. And I love being in love. But it's a very dangerous road to put your hat of your future and commitment and confidence in a lifetime relationship just on love. Because I don't mean to upset you after all these shows, but I fell in love several times before I met you. Oh, yes. You know, if that was it, I'd have been married several times.
Yeah. I think we better leave it there. Join us next time on Big Questions, Short Answers with Sian Jacquet and me, Andy.
If you have any questions you want to ask, please send them via the website, sianjacquet.com.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share it with everyone you know.
We really do appreciate you sharing 15 minutes with us.
And if you want to do a bit more learning, go on to Sian's website, sianjacquet.com. There's a course on values to create the life you truly love. I did it, and it really does do what it says on the can.
See you next time.